Good afternoon. I don't know. Okay. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Charles Mullen. I am Gerald's stepfather. I'd like to introduce
Reginald McGaugh. I'm Gerald's uncle, but he's been like a big brother to me all my life.
And Mario Robinson. I'm Scotty's first cousin.
On behalf of our families, we'd like to thank each and every one of you for taking time out to honor Scotty's life. And I'd like to first of all start off with thanking the church. I'm going to say it this way, may be incorrect. The Church of Eckankar for allowing us to have the service that he wanted. He has belonged to this church for over 30 years. And he is 40, okay. He has grown in it. And I was not a happy camper about it, but it's his. And when he was sick, and I told him one time, I will honor I'll give you the respect that you want. If that's what you want, the service that you want, we will go with it. It's a little bit different than what I'm used to. It may be a little bit different than what you're used to, but it's what he loved and what he was about. And the minister or the person that is taking care of it, help me out with the name, Evelyn Amata, I think, or close if I didn't butcher it. I'd like everyone to welcome her and thank you all for coming again.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Evelyn Umata. Thank you, Mr. Mola. You tried because the name is strange, right? Evelyn Umata. Welcome. The gathering of the family and friends. You are all seated here, and you are welcome. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Evelyn Umata. I am a member of Eckankar and a clergy. And I know you know what clergy stands for. I welcome all of you who have come today to honor the life of Gerald V. McGaugh and to share, and to share our love for him. As some of you know, Gerald McGaugh was a member of Eckankar, the path of spiritual freedom. Though some might call it religion, but it is part of spiritual freedom. The light and sound of God is what we deal with. I came to know Gerald through the common interest in a community over the years. And the family has given me the options and the love to hold this service and to conduct the service today, and I was honored to accept it. Ek is the life force, the Holy Spirit, or audible life current, which sustains all life. This Ek Memorial Service is about the nature of life, death, love, and the journey of soul. Gerald McGaugh is soul, an eternal individual spark of God who can never die, but who has left this arena of life for a new one. We are here to celebrate the time we share with Gerald McGaugh and open our heart to a richer understanding of the common spiritual journey. Each person is a divine being who comes to life on earth with a spiritual purpose, lifetime after lifetime. So grows in love and in grace, ultimately to become a co-worker with God. A lifetime is a precious gift, an opportunity for spiritual growth and service to others. Most of all, life brings souls, the purity of love, compassion, and the grace. Each one of us travels a path of spiritual unfoldment, only partly visible to others. This is the secret, inner side of life, our private communion with God. In Ekankar, we believe that God, Sugmo, that is God, sent each soul into life to discover itself as a divine being, walking only on holy ground, walking holy ground. So it's never without the twin aspect of God, the light and sound of Ek, also known as the Holy Spirit. The light is shown us what we must overcome. The sound calls our heart home to God. The spiritual leader of Ekankar, the Manhattan, the living Ekmaster, serve as our companion and guide on this journey. The Manhattan, the inner teacher, lead us into the light and sound, forever reminding us that soul exists because God loves it. Birth and death marks the journey of soul. The translation from one stage of experience to another is but a further step on soul's journey home to God. Now, I will call on the brother Grant McGaugh to please come up stage and mention those people who want to remember their lifetime with Gerald McGaugh. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. So I'd like to bring to the stage, we're going to honor our brother, my brother, with all of his family and friends through remembrance. So I'd like to first call Mario and Tammy to the stage to represent the Mullen family.
Good morning. In this humanly life, everybody dies. Everybody dies, but not everybody lives. Scotty lived. He lived. Our officiant talked about the journey of the soul. That soul, that bright, beautiful soul, has been journeying for a long time, and Paulette called those interplanetary excursions, those journeys. Scotty, he would be the first person to tell you he didn't always make the right choices, the best choices, and some of life's challenges weren't even about his choices, just the circumstances that we run into throughout life. But regardless, he found the humor and the wisdom in every situation, and he was more than willing to share it with all of us. We were fortunate as his family to get a lot of that, and some of you who are his close friends got a lot of that throughout his life, and some of you just a little taste of who he was as a person. But each person who I've heard speak of him has talked about that light and that happiness and that wisdom, his kindness, his heart, and those are the things that we will all remember. And I'm hopeful that those memories will provide us with some peace as we think fondly of Scotty and maybe a time when he made us laugh. Sometimes it was appropriate to laugh in the situation, and sometimes it wasn't. but that didn't mean he didn't make us laugh, right? So today, as I stand here, cat hair all over my clothing in honor of Scotty, we're just here to celebrate his life and the light and the wisdom that he shared with us all. I think Mario has a poem he wants to.
I'll try to read. Tammy said it all. I know we went to that Eckankar service Wednesday night. Tuesday night. They never heard him called Scotty before. And she was like, Scotty. And so me as a kid, that brought back memories. I was kind of the rambunctious one, as Grant would say, Stevie. They didn't have a name for it back then, but it was ADHD. We got bounced off the walls many times with my cousin David. They were like my brothers. I didn't have any brothers. I had this thing. Little big sister. So when I got the chance to go to Omaha, I cherished those moments with Scotty and Stevie. I couldn't remember their names when I was a kid, Gerald and Grant. So for me, it was when I got bounced off the wall, would go upstairs crying, Uncle Butcher would be like, who did it? The tall one. 10 minutes later, run back upstairs crying, who did it? The short one. Sorry. But that's how I remember their names. When I got older, obviously, it kind of clicked in. So when you hear us talk about Scotty and Stevie, that's who we're referring to, Gerald and Grant. Tammy mentioned it, his love for cats. That was very rare for men, because I'm a cat freak myself, for him to have his love for cats. He would walk into a room and it would shine, without a doubt. Family reunions were great. You'd never seen him without a smile on his face. He would lift up a room. He was charismatic. He would own it. But he was always worried about other people, not himself. He would always ask how you're doing, even though he was going through cancer. He was worried about you, not himself. That was the kind of man Scotty will be. It was kind of weird. I'm looking last night for a poem to kind of recite, and I come across I'm Free. And for several hours last night, I'm like, this is it. Well, I get here. It's in the obituary. So I'm like, great minds think alike. It still works. So I'll try to get through this. Don't grieve for me, for now I'm free. I'm following the path God laid for me. I took his hands when I heard him call. I turned my back and left it all. I could not stay another day to laugh, to love, to work or play. Task left undone must stay that way. I found that peace at the close of day. If my parting has left a void, then Phil remembered joy, a friendship shared, a laugh, a kiss. Oh yes, these things I too will miss. Be not burdened with time of sorrow. I wish you the sunshine of tomorrow. My life's been full, I've savored much. Good friends, good times, and loved ones' touch. Perhaps my time seemed all too brief. Don't lengthen it now with undue grief. Lift up your heart and share with me. God wanted me now. He set me free. That is Scotty, to the T. But again, on behalf of the Mullen side of the family, appreciate you being here, sharing this moment. And as Scotty was always in his texts, his conversations, may the blessings be.
I would like to have a representative from the McGaugh family. Little Reggie McGaugh, would you like to come up?
Hello, everyone. It's been it's an honor and privilege to be up here. You know, Scotty was my brother. Tortured me growing up. You know, every weekend we'd be over Scotty and Stevie's house. My brother Ronnie got a driving age. My mother made him, tag along, so I was there almost every weekend. Scotty used to torture me because he thought I was a tattletale, but my brother Ronnie couldn't handle his liquor and used to tell on himself. So after Scotty figured that out, we were cool. But, he had style, swagger. He was an athlete. He was cool. He was a ladies' man. I'm restricted from telling some of the great, stories. I might start an OnlyFans or some social platform and charge a couple bucks a month, but I have so many stories. So, where do I start? The last week, and a half, I've been looking through my text messages. They went back 3 years, but just, we showed each other love. I called him my main man. That was my nickname for him since I moved back from Chicago almost 10 years ago. Every time he was in town, he'd come over. We'd take turns picking a movie. We'd sit there for hours. Scotty stopped drinking and doing everything a long time ago, but, his passion was his cats, fishing, and he was a big UFC fan. So we would, every weekend or every time the UFC would come on, Scotty and I were texting each other. So I was just looking at some text messages, and he turned me on to Thug Rose. So she ended up being one of my favorite UFC fighters. And I know John Bones Jones just had a fight. I'm sure Scotty was watching from above, in the sky. One funny fishing story, we were in Effingham, Lake Sarah, and Scotty, it was, 8-9 hour, car ride up. Scotty gets right out of the car, gets his gear, walks through the house right to the lake, cast out, he catches the biggest fish. So all the family, just that whole weekend, we were like, oh! So every weekend or every family fishing trip, Scotty was, a great fisherman. We just loved, having him around. I'm gonna miss him, dearly. He's my brother, my friend. Like I said, my idol growing up. He's been my hero the last, 10 years. So it was good fellowshipping last night with everyone. The Carter boys, Cribs. If you know Scotty gives the best hugs. So we spent most of the time last night giving each other Scotty hugs. So that's the thing I'm gonna do here on out, for the family, and just, life is short. I wish my guy was here. We were just talking about the fishing season coming up. I just got this app called Fish Brain, and we're looking at all the lakes and what time and bait and things. So I'm just gonna miss his presence, and I appreciate you guys allowing me a few minutes to speak. Thank you. The Scotty hug.
I'd like for Scotty worked at the Independence Center and Bryan Medical Center for 17 years. And that organization loved my brother. I would like to have a representative from the Bryan Independence Center. Is Linda here? Yes, come on up. I'd like for you to speak on their behalf.
Hi, I'm Linda Kimina, and I work at Bryan Medical Center, and I've known Gerald for many years, but I had the pleasure of being his supervisor for the last year and really getting to know him. He meant a lot to a lot of people, to the staff, to the clients that he worked with. We had a celebration of life for him for the clients last weekend. It was very well attended. It was very, very healing for those clients. We heard a lot of great things about Gerald there. Also yesterday we had a celebration of life at the Independence Center for him, and we could have gone on for hours and hours and hours with the stories, some good, some not so good. But there were some key things that people said that I really want the family to know what he meant, okay? And some of the words that I kept hearing was friend, number one, friend, compassionate, present. When you talked to him, he was present with you. It didn't matter who else was in the room. He was listening to you and focusing on you. He was expressive. We all know that. He was spiritual. He was influential. He is forgiving, and that contagious smile and that contagious laugh that he had. He had hundreds of connections and saved hundreds of lives, to the point that coworkers who were going through cancer, he was their cheerleaders and cheering them on and checking about their labs and their treatment progress as he had gone through it, and he was that cheerleader for them. One of our staff worked a year and a half with him and got to know him very well. And the UFC, I think I got that right, she hates it, but she watched it this last week for him. She didn't understand it, but she watched it just for Gerald, and I want you to know that. She is now also taking our clients to AA meetings in the community. And in that community, we've had former clients specifically come to those meetings to say that they are praying for him, that they are praying for his family, and for the staff at the Independence Center. Emails, phone calls that we've got, that's how your son really reached the people, and that's what I want you to know. He wasn't always the best employee, He kept people up at night, talking and laughing and watching those fights. And I'd say, Gerald, you gotta be quiet. And I get you. And he'd, and then he'd go on and do it again. So, hey. And finally, I just want to tell you that he worked as a team. After we started, we had a patient that was outpatient and was suicidal. And the team got together and they worked, and they knew they all had their places. And Gerald was the talker. So he stayed on that phone with that client, talking to him, giving him encouragement, as the other staff actually found the police to go find this gentleman, and they saved his life. So we recognized Gerald and the team at the board at the Bryan Medical Center. And he was so proud that day, and afterwards they said, does anybody want to say anything? Of course, everybody was quiet but Gerald. And he talked, but it was all about the team. It was all about the team, and afterwards my director was there, and he found him in the parking lot, and he goes, Dr. Dave, and Dave is looking around, and there's Gerald, and finding him, and he says, look what we got. And Dave said, Gerald, you really did a good job. He goes, it's not about me, it's about the team. And that's what Gerald was, and that is what we're always going to remember him from. I also, one of the last times I talked to him, he told me, he goes, Linda, I know my days are limited, because he was going through things. I don't think he knew it was that limited. But he goes, I'm going to live my life to the fullest. And I guess that's what I want to take from Gerald's life, is that I want to live my life to the fullest and learn something from him. Thank you.
So if you didn't know Scotty, you're thinking about Scotty, and you think about his faith, his beliefs. Look at the life that he lived. That'll tell you everything you need to know. I'd like to bring one of his best friends to represent the Lincoln community, Miss Gina Johnson.
Hi, I'm Gina. When Stevie asked me if I would speak today, I said yeah. But then I felt sort of speechless. And you guys don't know me, but I can't really shut up most of the time. And so, Gerald would probably be going, gotcha again. I met him 20-ish years ago, probably, right after he started at Bryan. And then our relationship just went on. We sort of became like family. He was really sick at the time. He was going through cancer treatment. He couldn't drive. So how we became friends was that I would take him to the grocery store or take him to and from work. And then he developed a really good relationship with my daughter. He was like a dad to her. And then he was like a dad to all of the kids that he mentored at the Independence Center. They had a mutual love for cats, him and my daughter. And they would always conspire to try to get me to give her one. He enjoyed fishing, you guys know that. Wildlife, eagles. His favorite color was blue, and his favorite candy was chocolate turtles. We knew each other so intimately. There wasn't anything he didn't share with me, which was odd because I'm a female, but we just had such a deep connection. He loved his dad and his stepdad and his brother and other family members, and he was so proud of his family history. He shared a lot of it with me. I used to joke with him a lot and tell him his life was only half over because everyone in his family looked so young. He was a mama's boy, bad. They talked all the time. In one of our last conversations, he told me this story about how him and Stevie and someone else, I don't know who, but they took a fish tank and they pushed it out the window. And they watched it explode. And anyway, his mother wasn't very happy that day, probably. He was non-judgmental, kind, measured, and patient, highly intelligent, and playfully mischievous. He had struggles, just like we all do, but as he worked on himself, he was able to reach a lot of adult milestones. The majority of his milestones focused on personal growth, spiritual elevation, and service to others. These things were his way of having purpose because he believed that whatever you put out comes back. He mastered the art of coaching people up. His love for people was limitless and unconditional. The impact he had on countless lives is immeasurable. In one of his most recent recognitions Linda talked about, he received an award at work for a patient with suicidal ideation, and it resulted in a life saved. He was so dedicated to service to others that he would push himself beyond his own physical limitations in order to help others. He knew how to draw laughter out of people, and he helped me a lot. And one time I was really emotional, and I was crying, and he looked at me so seriously, and he said, "Girl, why you got your ugly face on?" That's just how it was, you know. Just like he was so alive and so activated, vibrant, and full of passion. And he made sure to spread that everywhere he went. And the last time we got together, I went over to his house to help him set up a printer. And we got it working, and he printed something from his phone, and he danced right in his living room. And so that's the last time I saw him. So I will forever remember him joyful and dancing. I could stand here forever and it wouldn't be long enough to explain how much love we shared or how deeply we were connected. But I suspect that many of you share the same sentiment. You wouldn't want us to weep. So if I made you laugh or smile at least once, I feel I did exactly what he would expect me to do. In closing, I would tell you that a person's self-actualization can truly be reflected by the mark that is left on earth after they're gone. Scotty left us a canyon.
Thank you very much. I don't know how that fish story got into that, but I can explain. I'd like to bring Mr. Anthony Carter to the podium to represent the countless Omaha friends and family that are there. So if Anthony Carter, would you like to come on up? I really appreciate it. He's been a family friend my entire life.
Bring them on.
First, thank you. say this man was my best friend doesn't cover it. This man was my brother. The only thing that separated that is DNA. We've been through things and stories I can tell. Charles already gave me a clock, so. But from the time we were playing as kids on 41st and 40th Avenue, playing street football that went from touch football in the street to damn near tackle, because you didn't get touched, to us coming up as kids, growing up, seeing the man that he was becoming. There was times when he was going through his valley period, it was tough for me to watch. He was going through that, and after he came out of it, I was so happy. And as he was coming through it, then cancer and other things that were misdiagnosed. And I remember having a conversation with God. I said, why are you putting so much on this man? But later I learned that I'm shaping him to help people. And that's what he did. That's what he did. It took, after these last 10, 15 years, I just saw, through him, some of the things that he talked about. He never went in real detail, but he went into enough to know, man, he helped a lot of people. And it was because of what he went through that he was able to do that, because he had authenticity about what he spoke, because he went through it. And I remember once when we were visiting, and this was when I was in Charlotte, I was driving the truck, and I came home, and he wasn't doing too good. And we were at Mama's, and he was sitting up, and I could just see that he said, and he said, man, I'm just trying to be strong, sitting up here. I said, man, you don't have to prove to me how strong you are. I know how strong you are. Go ahead and rest. And we left, and just the stories, the man, many people have mentioned about his laughter. Yeah, when he laughed and Scotty laughed, it brightened, it touched your soul, because it wasn't just ha 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 laugh. It was a hearty, it was a robust laugh. It came from his heart. And as Reggie would say, the hugs are always good. I mean, it brought you close in, like your heart would hit his heart. And your heart, at that time while you were hugging, you were beating as one. At that time, in that moment, you two were together. And I will miss his presence, but I'll never miss him, because he will always be with me, with us. Man, I mean, I know a lot of people. I'm acquainted with a lot of people. I have friends. I have good friends. I have great friends. But this was my best friend. This was my brother. And no one's going to replace that. I mean, he has a special place in my heart that will always be there. Even though this was you've been a good and faithful servant, Gerald. You've been a good and you've been a faithful servant. God has called him on to higher and bigger things. And we were the fortunate ones to have him for this length of time. Because there's been people that are here that he hasn't seen in probably, or they haven't seen him in 20, 30 years. People have come out of town from far away just to be here. And that just shows the magnitude of the man, the lives that he has touched. And we are so blessed. We are so blessed to have him in our lives. And as his saying is, let the blessings be, he was the blessing. He was our blessing. Thank you. It's been my honor. Thank you for asking me. Man, thanks, brother.
I have no words. We're going to continue the service. Miss Evelyn Camato. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing your remembrance for Gerald McGaugh. So the service continues, and I'm going to read. I'm reading some reading. Sri Harold Klein, the Manhattan, the living headmaster, was once asked, what is the transition like when we leave here at death and go to the next place? Sri Harold response, recorded in the Golden Heart, Manhattan Transcript, Book 4, was as follows. In most cases, as we make the transition, we are totally unconcerned about it. As bright as the sunlight appears to our eyes, this physical world is a dark, small, mean place compared to the other worlds. You will see settings similar to those on earth, but larger and with a lot more light. There will be a lightness and spaciousness about the body that you wear there. Soul is once again wearing a body, but it is on a higher plane. It is so natural that generally you don't give it a second thought. And you are always greeted by someone you know and loved. For people who love truth and love God, it is a smooth change. The key is really love. I will read the second reading. The following passage are from Stranger by the River, is one of our books, by Paul Touche, modern day founders of Ekankar, the path of spiritual freedom. Ekmaster Ribasata has stirred the spiritual seeker about the life of soul throughout eternity. Fill thyself with light, and death cannot overtake thee. Ask God for the light and sound to live in peace. Be humble and see that soul be filled with the simplicity of love. Then thy own true self, the divine spark, which is truly thee, will alone endure, and the rest of thee will be discarded in order to realize the real self, which is thine own true self. If you know that death is only an illusion, then there is little need for thee to have cause for fear. Truth sustains you, and this clay temple is dissolved when the physical body wears out. But the soul, which owns its origin, life, and growth to God, will remain forever in the highest mansion of the Lord. God loves and takes special care of those who love him with all their heart and soul, and gradually draw them towards himself, the center of pure light. There, my son, is love. The love that makes all things beautiful, yes, and breathe divinity into the very doors you tread. Yes, also, with love shall life roll on gloriously throughout eternity, like the voice of great music that has power to hold the hearer heart poised on eagle wings far above the earthly world. This memorial service has been a time for us to celebrate the journey that has brought Gerald V. McGaugh closer to God. We will close by singing Hymn, a love song to God, to reawaken our hearts to the blessings of life. It is generally sung sweetly in one drawn-out note like this. I'm going to demonstrate it. When you sing Hymn, which is Hymn, when you sing Hymn with love, your heart filled with the light and sound of God. I invite you to join in singing this sacred name of God. Afterward, we will spend a moment or two in quiet contemplation. So I will lead the hymn, I will demonstrate. You put your attention at the T-strat, which is the place above your eyebrow. You close your eyes, but if you feel you can't close your eyes, you can open your eyes and sing it as well. So we will sing the hymn in this way. I welcome you to join me now. Hymn, like that. Then we can now all sing it. May the blessings be. I thank all of you for sharing your love for Gerald V. McGaugh. Today, his life is in our heart and in the heart of God. May the blessings be. Thank you, everyone.
Just before we continue, we are on, it's a live service. Scotty traveled to Africa back, I think, a year or two ago. I can't really recall. But he went to Nigeria, and there are a lot of Nigerian friends that are listening right now. And they loved him. They loved him. They loved him. And he's seen a lot of them in Minneapolis just recently. So in recognition to the ones that could not be here that are on our live service, thank you for tuning in. Now I would like to bring up one of our cousins from the dozens of cousins, the Bryant Fisher family from the Walker clan, from James Walker, Jocko Walker, Mr. Michael Nichols, if he would be so kind to come to the stage and leave us with a great prayer and hymn as we get ready to conclude our service.
Scripture, right? Read the song.
Sir, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Paulette wanted me to read this, the scripture, which is the 23rd number of the Psalms. It reads as thus: The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table for me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I've read for you the entire 23rd number of the Psalms. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading, the hearing, the doers, and the application of his most precious and holy word. Scotty, he's my cousin, and I didn't know him as well as some that were up here, but, you know, we would always get together at the family reunion, which is the second Sunday of August. And the one thing that impressed me about him was he had a very calm demeanor. And as I talked with Paulette the other day, when she was telling me about all of the ailments that he suffered through, it's like you would have never known it. You know, he was in and out of a storm here, a storm there. But right now, his storms are over. But for the rest of you, we're all going through storms. 3 of them. You're either going in one, in the middle of one, or coming out. And she asked that I sing this song. Though the storms keep on raging in my life, and at times it's hard to tell the night from day, still that hope that lies within is reassured as I keep my eyes upon the distant shore. I know he'll lead me safely to that blessed place he has prepared. But if the storms don't cease, and if the wind keeps on blowing, my soul has been anchored in the Lord. Though the storms keep on raging in my life, and it's times it's hard to tell the night from day, still that hope that lies within is reassured as I keep my eyes upon the distant shore. I know someday he'll lead me to that blessed place he has prepared. But if the storms don't cease, and if the wind keeps on blowing in my life, my soul has been, my soul has been, my soul has been anchored in the Lord. Now I realize sometimes in this life we're going to be tossed and turned by the waves that seem so fierce. But in the words of my God, I've got an anchor that keeps me steadfast and immovable despite the tides. But if the storms don't cease, and just in case the wind keeps on blowing, my soul has been, my soul has been, my soul has been anchored in the Lord, in the Lord, in the Lord, in the Lord. My soul's been anchored, my soul's been anchored, my soul's been anchored, my soul's been anchored. Billows may roll, breakers may dash, but I'm not afraid because he holds me fast. So dark today, no light in the sky, I'm not afraid because Jesus is nigh. Hey, when life knocks me down, the Lord, he picks me up. He's right beside me when the going gets rough. My soul's been anchored, my soul's been anchored. My soul's been anchored, my soul's been anchored, my soul's been anchored. My soul has been anchored in the Lord. Thank you. That's my testimony.
Great testimony. So that's his testimony. I love that. We're going to get ready to go. But before I go, I must tell you, things that's anchored my brother were a couple of people. I want to mention them while we have an opportunity. One was Miss Ursula Turner, which was the last time I was standing here. That was my grandmother. She lived 99 years. She was a living testimony. I also want to thank my grandmother, Mary Jackson, another living testimony. I cannot leave this podium without acknowledgement to my grandfather, Gerald C. McGaugh. Cannot leave this podium without acknowledging my father, Gerald C. McGaugh, Jr. I laid them all to rest. I'm laying my brother, Gerald Van Scott McGaugh, to rest. This is the most difficult thing to do in life. So I pray for all of you, because we all have to do these kinds of things. And I appreciate that you've come out here today to show the love and respect that you've given my brother. People come from all over, and it helps me. Let's continue to love each other like you're showing the love to my brother. I want to say unequivocally that Mr. Charles Mullen came into our lives. I think we were 13 or 14 years old. He was a Marine. He had to deal with some ornery boys. He showed nothing but love for me and Scotty, and he kept us in a way that, you know, you don't really appreciate things until you turn around and say, man, I'm glad he's in my life. I want to give him his flowers while he's living. I have to give my flowers to my mother, because I don't ever want to come back up here to do that kind of work. I want to give my mother her flowers right now. You did this beautifully. I didn't know how this was going to go. And you stood there like a champion. And you waited for me to come, and we took care of business. And I love you. And I want to thank you very much. There will be a repast at 7575 Crown Point. You're all welcome to come. We're going to go ahead and conclude the service, and I thank you all for being here. Oh, we have some announcements. Excuse me. Come on up.
I'll be brief. There were many acknowledgments that the family received, and we want to thank you all for those. There were just a couple from churches that Aunt Paulette asked me to read. This first one, remembering you in prayer. May you feel the caring love of friends, the comfort of cherished memories, and the tender nearness of God. To Brother and Sister Mullen, Stevie, and the entire McGaugh family, our hearts are aching with yours as we grieve the loss of Gerald. He delighted our family and stole the heart of our daughter Cheryl, and was a respectful young man. We watched proms, track meets, and lots of late nights on our porch, and many phone calls. We know that it's hard, but we will join Gerald as he walks the streets of gold. We will continue to pray for your strength and peace. Mrs. Viola Hill and Reverend Raymond Hill, First Lady and Pastor Emeritus, New Light Baptist Church of Omaha, Nebraska. And for everything, there is a season, a time for every matter under the heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up what has been planted. Ecclesiastes 3:1-2. To the family of Gerald McGaugh, we at the Morning Star Baptist Church family offer our deepest sympathy to Sister Paulette Mullen and family for the loss of her son, Gerald McGaugh. There are no words to adequately express our deepest sympathy or to remove the sorrow and the pain that each of you is experiencing. We want you to know that the Morning Star Baptist Family Church is lifting your family up in prayer. We are left here for only a season, and when that season ends, those of us who confess to know Jesus as the Son of God are elevated to a higher plane, to a house not made by hands, there to spend eternity with the Lord. Rejoice today, because the Word of God tells us to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. 2 Corinthians. God knows your pain and your sorrow, but in Him you have solace, to give it all to Him in prayer. The mark and strength of your faith will enable each of you to journey on. Our prayer is that you can find some consolation in all the fond memories that you have in Him. Please know that through your prayer, the gift of God's grace and mercy, you will be granted the strength to journey on. Your journey of grief may take some time, but remember, God is faithful and he will be with you through your time of sorrow. Prayerfully submitted, Reverend Dr. Jamie L. Colts, Senior Pastor of Morningstar Baptist Church. And again, there are numerous acknowledgments, and the family will definitely want to thank everyone who reached out to share their expressions of condolences and sympathy. Thank you.
So just one more time, if you want to go to the repass, it's directly down 72nd Street. Once you get to Crown Point, just take I believe it's a left, and you'll be going toward, you'll see it right on the left-hand side, 75 to 75 Crown Point. I encourage all of you to write into the obituary. You can always send us emails. We've got a lot of things on Facebook, so continue to pour in your love and respect. The family definitely appreciates it. So thank you very much.
Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to on God's celestial shore.